In the previous episode, I sailed from Christmas Island to Cocos-Keeling Islands, and here I make the major 16-day passage of 2,000 miles across the southern Indian Ocean from Cocos Island to Rodrigues. It's Saturday the 28th September and I'm saying goodbye to Cocos-Keeling. See the monster boat there, Platinum. Don't think you'll be able to see Moonwatch over there. The guys gave me a ride across from the ferry, just behind that little boat over there. But it was so crazy last night. The wind was howling and there were squalls coming through, so I didn't leave last night. But I'm on my way now, just after dawn. Looks like it's going to be excellent sailing out here. This is Rodrigues Island, and it marks the northwest corner of the atoll. So once we round that, we can head off. Some decidedly big waves coming in here. Nice swell because there's been 3 days of southeasterly trades while I've been down in Perth. This is the end of Rodrigues Island. We'll go around the corner here and head off to Rodrigues. Beautiful. Pair of white noddies doing their courtship. They split up. Usually they fly right next to each other. Yeah, like that. Nice. The chart shows our departure track around the north end of the atoll. I get forecasts of the wind in this format from the New Zealand company PredictWind via my Iridium Go satellite phone. In addition to my own tracker on it that is updated every hour and on which I post my private blog for family and friends, I can follow other boats that also have PredictWind trackers, and if they post, I can read their blogs. This image shows that several of the other boats were now well ahead of us and into some stronger conditions shown in red, indicating 20 knots or more. It's Tuesday the 1st of October. I haven't filmed much. We had really nice broad reach sailing the first couple of days, and it was a little light yesterday. We went to wing on wing like this, and as forecast today it has really built. We got about a third of the jib and we're down to the quadruple main, and I'm hanging on here at the back of the boat. Got a bunch of squalls come through. There's a big one over there to the north, and the wind noise would be bad, but there's a big one over here to the south, and there are 2 more chasing us. Tonight I'm going to take the main down completely, take the pole down, put the jib on the other side, and then I can furl it as needed. Should be a wild night. It was indeed a rough night, but with some fast sailing, as shown here the next morning. It's a nice big swell coming up behind us. Let's see if it gives us a surf. Sort of. And by the next day the waves had built even more, yielding regular long surfs, but occasionally slewing us almost sideways to the waves, requiring a heroic effort by the wind vane to get us back on course. We were crossing the mid-ocean ridge called the 90 East Ridge for its longitude, where the ocean floor rises from 15,000 feet to 5,000 feet, but I find it hard to believe that contributed to the wave heights, some of the highest I had yet seen. These rough conditions coincided with lots of flying fish landing on the windward side deck, so I put my paella making lesson from Ralph into practice. Well, it's Saturday the 5th of October, and we have a gorgeous trade wind sailing day, although the winds are relatively light. For a change, we have the mainsail all the way up. Look at that. See all the patches along the leach. Those long white strips at the top are just wonderful from Mary, Shane's wife. Reinforced that whole leach, and on the backside, on the other side as well for lower down. And if we zoom in right at the top, we actually added an entire panel up at the top there, on
Island here.
We were now over a week into the passage and halfway across, as well as halfway across the entire Indian Ocean from Torres Strait to Cape Town. Somewhat surprisingly, the abundance of plastic trash that I had experienced off Indonesia, but had not commented on in the previous two videos, continued, albeit less commonly, but I nevertheless caught quite a bit of it. But eventually I caught a really nice mahi-mahi that fed me for most of the rest of the passage.
I have a lovely dawn this morning. Certainly, I'm a little confused now. Lights. It can't be the lights. Yes, it's October. Been running dead downwind for 24 hours. Trying to get a little bit of westing in. And now we have a lovely, lovely sunrise. I'll soon turn back to broad reaching, headed south, east, southeast. No, west, southwest.
And this lovely sunrise picture.
And this has been our sail configuration for 24 hours. Triple reef main, held out to starboard of course, with the preventer, and most of the jib. We've got a couple of furls in the jib, held out to port spinnaker pole. And we've been running just fine like that. It's been really nice. But as you can tell, maybe from this, it's awfully rolly. And it'd be nice, really nice to get back onto a broad reach on starboard, headed that away. West, southwest. Get it right this time. Our flags are doing great. The South African one is hanging in here, and even the American one just needs a little stitching hanging in. Alright, we're headed for Rodrigues. 5 more days. Oh, it's later, Wednesday the 9th. I've woken up a bit now. Here's the sail configuration for deep downwind, not really downwind, deep broad reaching. Got the staysail poled out to port, little unstable on a little old whisker pole. Got a full jib up front, and that staysail nicely feeds the wind into it so it doesn't collapse and bang. And we're already down to triple reef main.
And looking up at the Windex on top of the mast, we can see that this indeed was a broad reach, but on port jibe, not starboard. Then a mahi-mahi paella, even tastier than the flying fish one, each of which lasted for 3 dinners. And I will never quite get over the dawn sky on a lovely morning at sea.
It's Thursday the 10th October morning, and we have a high overcast this morning. Kind of unusual actually. Lovely colourful sunrise. And we have mare's tails all over the sky from the southwest. I'm going to say that this is an indication of a lot of energy in the atmosphere associated with some new southeast trades coming from the south. That's going to give us really strong winds this weekend. But right now we are sailing along really comfortably. Full main, staysail, full jib. South African flag is flash bombing the video. It's Friday the 11th of October, and we are sailing along in very pleasant, comfortable, brilliant sunshine, trade wind conditions, but on a very broad reach. And you can see signs of the disturbed weather we had this morning. It's overcast with lots of squalls, several of which caught us, but none severe. Behind us here is a string of little squalls, like pearls on a chain, and we have something similar in front. But the forecast is for really strong winds tonight, so we'll see what that brings.
By late afternoon, conditions had deteriorated a lot, with the wind approaching 20 knots. I had dropped the main completely and secured it to the boom with sail ties in preparation for a rough night, leaving about half the jib out that could easily be furled further.
And we have things in pretty good shape down here. We've got the extra strong wind vane there with the German flag, honouring the guy who owned it and the guy who built it. And I've got my auxiliary solar panel here as the splash guard. And we've got the furling line on the winch here so that we can furl it no matter how strong the conditions get. And yeah, it's pretty wild already. I anticipate we'll probably, it's blowing well over 20 now. I anticipate we'll have gusts over 30 tonight. Nothing that we haven't previously survived. These extra lines here are for a warp system, which I have not tested yet. Well, that was literally 5 minutes ago. Now all hell's letting loose into a squall. Got the jib furled down to less than half. Ay, ay, ay. It is pretty wild out here. I'm thankful for the splash guard and this furler system, and hopefully a still strong jib to keep us going. This is crazy. I think it's just a squall. I don't think this is the real thing, but who knows? Could be much worse than this tonight.
And indeed, as we, the little white dot on the right, approached Rodrigues, the little island in the middle, ignore the red and green pins, it was all red on the ECMWF model prediction from PredictWind. And I was not the only one out in these conditions, doing 6 to 7 knots. The next morning, conditions were still strong as we continued on a broad reach with about a third of the jib out. The sky ahead was deep blue, giving us a cobalt sea with white caps, some of which were more than just white caps, but cresting waves, which when they hit us would send spray over the boat. But I was not complaining, as this was fast and safe sailing.
There's the clouds behind us. It rained pretty much all night. Drizzled rain, and the seas were just grey, steely grey in the morning. Every now and again one of these waves clips us a good one, and we're gonna get skewed around there. There's a little bit of the view from the cockpit. I'm sitting in my protected little corner here, the windward corner, braced. Brace my legs on the other side. Yeah, we get tossed around quite severely. Every now and again a wave will pick us up and either give us a surf, or like that one nicely, or a massive slew. Let's see if we get one of them. There's a small one. Yeah, it's fine in my bunk because I'm braced in the bunk. But standing up downstairs or up here, wow, you've just got to be hanging on. Oh man, some nice waves coming behind us. That one's going to slew us around a little bit. The waves are not as big as they were in the last big blow that I had shortly after leaving Cocos. I'm sure that had something to do with that mid-ocean ridge, even though it came still 5,000 feet deep. I'll try turning around to the other side and show you my little protected corner. There it is. I've got the solar panel as a splash guard. It's this little corner of the Dodger. I've got it all buttoned down. I've got ropes in that corner and a water bottle in that hole, just to stop getting splashed too much.
And then it was over. Our second longest ocean passage after the initial 4,000-mile crossing of the South Pacific from Panama to French Polynesia in 2022. The anchorage in Port Mathurin on Rodrigues is an excavated basin at their harbor at the end of a long excavated channel through the coral. And here's the satellite Google view of it. From the dock where I had tied up to check in, there were 5 boats here, and then I joined them on the west end. Port Mathurin has no facilities for visiting sailors, and when I asked about a shower, I was directed to this tap on a rainwater collection tank at the warehouse, which was being filled with bags of rice from recently landed containers.
It's Tuesday the 15th in Mathurin, Port Mathurin, Rodrigues. The sun is just coming over the hill. It's hard to see in the light here, but this is the harbour where I was docked up to do the official check-in and so on. And this is Bill Thorne's boat here, Caramore. And over here is the Estonian boat, Carl and Anne on it, Serenada. And then in the far there is Skyfall, British boat with Tom and Chris on it. And then here is Marisol with Norbert and Inga, the Germans. And I forget these guys' names, but this is Mahala of Lerwick. And then we're at low tide and the whole sandbar and reef are becoming exposed. These local guys are out with long poles and they walk on the reef and search for, I don't know what, maybe octopus or clams or occasional fish. They all have long poles and they occasionally stab at something. So yeah, peaceful place, and we're going to get a car today and travel around the island.
Here is our gang for the day. From the left, Tom, his crew Chris, Bill, Norbert and Inga. Our objective was the top of the island, to the Grande Montagna Nature Reserve. All the native forest was cut on the island in the 20th century, and this is an effort to restore some of it as a reserve for the few endemic birds and other species remaining, like this Rodrigues foddy and warbler. Like its neighbor Mauritius, where the dodo was driven extinct, Rodrigues had a similar-sized flightless bird, the solitaire, of which only a few bones remain, and it is memorialized in a statue near the harbor. The history of extinctions on the island is truly tragic. We are all happy to see and hear the warblers, but especially a few of the foddies like this one. The restoration efforts are being rewarded, enough so that they now have released several tortoises into the reserve, these coming from other island populations. And finally, here we are with our guide outside the visitor center a couple of hours later. We returned to Port Mathurin for lunch, and in the afternoon Bill and I drove along the eastern coast to a large kite surfing resort.
Well, I made it to the kite surfing spot and there is no wind, at least very little left, just a bunch of schools, kids learning, and a very nice place. I mean, really beautiful inside the lagoon here. And then this huge resort, and yeah, really nice place. It's just a shame that when I got here it clouded over and there was no wind left. Oh well, I have to wait for Cape Town.
This view further along shows a typical shoreline with lots of small fishing boats with which the people get fresh protein from the sea, while also growing vegetables in little plots, as shown by this carving at the Tourist Bureau, with rice and other staples imported. And we made it back to Port Mathurin at sunset, preparing to leave the next morning. In the next episode, I sail from Rodrigues to Mauritius via the Cargados Carajos Shoals.